Welcome back to A Good Life Farm. So I am getting my ironing done today. Mostly linen. I had someone make a comment once when I mentioned wanting to begin wearing more linen that I must love ironing. And actually, I do. It is my favorite indoor chore. I find it relaxing and peaceful, and there's just something about it. I can't quite explain it, but I thoroughly enjoy ironing. When I iron and I get like on a roll of doing lots of ironing, I'll sometimes even finish up the last item and then go to my closet and just look, do I have anything else to iron? Because I do enjoy it that much. So I realized last night that I never shared about my trip to Texas. So I thought, while I'm doing my ironing here, that I would share a little bit about that. But before I do, I wanted to mention that last week all of the Pottery coffee mugs had gone out, and I've been tracking on the Etsy website their delivery, and almost all of the mugs have been delivered. There's just a couple packages left that we're still kind of waiting on, especially the international ones. Those of course tend to take a little bit longer than the ones that are in the United States. Once all of the mugs have been delivered and all is well, and I don't get any reports on damage. I packed them very well, very tightly, because that tends to be the best way to go about it. All those years of army life and moving over and over and over again kind of gives you a little bit of practice on what works and what doesn't work. This is my 19th home as an adult. And unless the Lord has some other kind of plans, it will be the last, and there will not be a 20th. But I am always open to God's will. Arkansas is actually looking pretty good to me right about now. But anyways, I digress. Once the coffee mugs are all safely in their new homes, I do have a few extras that I had ordered just in case there was problems with the postal service, whether something got lost or, if a package is completely destroyed, which can happen. I would potentially have a backup one that I could mail to the person. But so far so good. But once they're all in the hands of their owners, all of those extra mugs I am going to post in the Etsy shop. So if you were wanting to get a coffee mug and you missed out on the big, pre-order opportunity, there will be one more chance to get a mug. I will post an announcement in my email newsletter. If you are not signed up for that, definitely make sure you're signed up. There's actually some other very exciting news that's going to be coming out in that newsletter this weekend. So if you are not signed up, you need to be signed up. You don't want to miss that announcement. So I will be announcing in the newsletter when exactly they will be going up on Etsy. I will have a day and time scheduled, and I will share that in the newsletter. So like I said, if you are wanting to get one, this will be the last chance to buy one, at least this year. I may do another order next year. I'm not sure. We'll just have to kind of see how it goes. So on to the Texas trip. So the whole reason for going to Texas was for a women's conference that I was attending. It was called Surge, was the name of it. And it was a faith-based conference. And of course, you know, Texas is a little bit of a drive. And this particular conference actually began in the evening on a Friday, or late afternoon, I should say. So my friend Kim and I drove to Texas the first day. We stopped in Little Rock, Arkansas for lunch at a burger place, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's kind of near the big like Bass Pro Shop and all of that stuff. But we stopped for lunch and then we headed on to Texas. And as we were nearing the Dallas Metroplex, there was a little bit of a famous place that neither her nor I had ever been to, and so we stopped on in. So Buc-ee's is a pretty famous gas station of all things, but it's not your typical gas station. The one that we went to, I was told, was actually one of their smaller ones. It only has about 90 gas pumps, and the inside is like a great big grocery store. They've got some really good food. While we were there was a gentleman slicing up some brisket that had just come out. And since it was actually getting close to dinner, we picked up some brisket sandwiches and some of their fresh made potato chips, and we took it on to the Airbnb. Now, on the occasion that I travel, an Airbnb is always my first choice as far as where I want to stay. And I try to choose things that are a little bit different, so kind of unique. And this particular Airbnb was a barn dominium. And standing there in front of this Airbnb, looking at the donkeys that were living there and the pond with the swan down there, you would never know that you were right smack in the middle of a massive city. It was so peaceful and just lovely, and like pretty much every Airbnb experience I've had, it was a very positive one. So the next morning we got up and, you know, we were in Texas, but we had some time to kill. So we made a stop in Waco. And then our third stop there in Waco was the original Magnolia shop, which was very tiny, but has become their scratch and dent location. And it worked out really well because when we were in the Magnolia home store at the silos, I had seen some candlesticks that I really liked, but I just didn't want to spend the money on them. Well, as it turns out, when we went to the scratch and dent store, I found the exact same candlesticks. One of them was just barely bent. I mean, you have to really look to even see it. And the other one was bent just a little bit more, but I'm fairly certain I can bend it back. And because they were damaged, they were marked way down, so I got them really inexpensively. And then my friend Kim had also seen something that she wanted. It was a canister for her flour. Well, again, she didn't really want to pay the price for it. And it just so happened that they had one of that exact canister there at the scratch and dent store. And the only thing wrong with that was there was a tiny little scuff that I'm sure would come right off with a magic eraser. Perfect. And for that, she got it at 75% off, just like I did the candlesticks. So then after our day in Waco, we drove on down to Belton, Texas, to a retreat center called the Summers Mill, I think it's Retreat and Conference Center, something like that. And that is where the conference was going on. And it's a very rustic kind of location in the woods. There's some walking trails. It's very quiet and peaceful. And the conference, like I mentioned, was a faith-based conference for women. But the workshops were all really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed every single one that I attended, because there were multiple going on that you could choose from. And they covered all sorts of topics. There's a couple that I really enjoyed. One was all about biblical Hebrew. I mean, if you've never really looked into the Hebrew language, it is an amazing language. And, you know, they have letters like we have letters, but each one of those letters also has a meaning. It's not just a shape creating a sound. It has a meaning in itself. And so when you have words that are formed out of the Hebrew letters, taking the meaning of each of those letters creates a story. And it's funny because I just saw a lady post something on Instagram the other day where she took the phrase in the beginning, broke it down to the Hebrew characters, gave you the meaning of each of those characters and the story it told. You would be pretty amazed. The words in the beginning tell the story of salvation from the beginning. It was pretty astounding. It was kind of a goosebumps thing. But I've seen many things like that. She touched on it in the workshop. Another one that I found very, very interesting was about biblical astronomy. I mean, God gave us the sun and the stars and the moon and all that for seasons and signs, but most of what we hear about astronomy leads into astrology, which is, you know, pagan in origin. And so seeing the biblical origins was just mind-blowing, to be quite honest. And I have some more studying on that I'm hoping to be able to do. So this was the first year they held that conference there. And the lady who organized it is hoping to do it annually. She's hoping that this is just the first of many. Oh, and one of the ladies that I got to meet, and I was so excited because I know her, but we've never met in person, is my friend Amy Gunther. She is the creator of Torah Sisters magazine, which I don't think I have ever shared about. I'm not sure. If I haven't shared about it, I am actually one of the contributors for that magazine. It is a faith-based magazine. It's very beautifully done, and it comes out every other month. and of course I am one of the contributors to that. So it was lovely getting to see Amy in person and getting to hug her neck, and I just really enjoyed it. The whole thing was just a very lovely weekend. So after the conference ended, Kim and I got back on the road, and once again we stayed at an Airbnb. This time we were up sort of near Texarkana, I think. We drove up that evening for a few hours, and we stayed at another Airbnb. We went out to dinner at a Tex-Mex place called, I think it was called Jalapeno Tree. The food was very good, and then we headed to our Airbnb, which was a tiny home. So that was my trip to Texas. So that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me while I do my ironing. I've got a lot more in my stack over there. Don't forget to sign up for my free email newsletter if you aren't already signed up. And it sounds like Willow has just come in the driveway. The dogs are going crazy. I'll talk to y'all next time.